Potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel. Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
Yeah. We made it to another live show with Russ on the road. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Brian Redd, sitting in here for Radical Russ. Let's get ready to watch some more videos and take a back. Shout out to Brightside PDX and Glico, Todd Armstrong.
We'll go there and pick one out and take it in a box. And I hear there's somebody else that has a 420 here floating around. She stopped by. We'll bring her up in a little bit. Just a little shift in our scheduling as well, ladies and gentlemen. Nana's secret will actually be at the Magical Butter booth. We're going to do a little presentation with Nana over there in just a little bit. But again, ladies and gentlemen, coming up here in just about a minute or so, Green Thumb Logistics. We're going to talk about Green Thumb Logistics. Actually, they're going to talk about Green Thumb Logistics and tell you all about all of their programs to keep you running in your green industry. Whoa! What's going on, man? How you doing? Alan, what's going on?
Nothing much, just trying to do some business.
Well, you know what? I'm going to turn the mic over to him. Thank you for coming to Magical Butter Studios.
Hi everyone, my name is Alan Wynn. I'm the co-founder of Green Thumb Logistics and Services. My counterpart is long right there, is the other half of the equation. I had a whole full-blown presentation and everything, but you know, I decided that I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of talk about what we do. And if there's any questions, we can kind of address them there. I feel it's probably a better way of approaching this. So what we do is, we're a supply chain management company. Okay, what does that really mean, right? So all the producers and processors out there are going to be growing on a pretty big scale. So you're going to be needing to buy a lot of supplies, a lot of your nutrients in your soils, even your gloves, your pots, all the consumable stuff that goes into growing marijuana, the process of growing marijuana. That's a lot to manage if you're a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. That's a lot of stuff you're going to be buying. So what we do is, you know, we bring that business solution for your business needs, because your options right now are to really go to a hydro shop and order your products and then throw it in your car and drive back, or order it online, pay for shipping, and wait for it to get delivered. And you know, I don't want to discount those business models at all. I think they do a fantastic job supporting the market which they're intended for, which is retail, right? It's fairly easy to go and pick up a 5-gallon jug of nutrients and a couple bags of soil, throw it over your shoulder, and get in your car and go back to your garden. But it's not really conducive to a large-scale growing operation when you're buying pallets of soil, when you're buying, you know, 55-gallon barrels of nutrients. That weighs 600 pounds for one of those barrels and 2,000 pounds for a pallet of soil. So what we do is we're bringing that commercial solution to the commercial industry. So the supply chain management side of it is that we work with the customers. We kind of understand what you guys use in your growing process. And we create that list that you guys have, so what soils, what nutrients you use. And then we can do some calculations and we figure out how much you use a month, right? So now we have a monthly usage. And what we do is we bring in all that stuff to you, we deliver it, we have a warehouse, we have a box truck, all that great stuff that goes along with it. We'll deliver it to your site, and then we'll have a supplies cabinet for your smaller items like the gloves and the markers and the pots and stuff. And we don't charge you for it. And basically it's like having a store at your facility. So when you start your grow operation, you walk over to the supplies area, you grab the supplies out as you need them, and at that moment when you remove it from the supplies area, you purchase it from us. So that's called a vendor managed inventory. It's used in many of the industries out there, but we're bringing that to this industry. So it's, like I said, it's like having it's like an industrial vending machine. You're paying for it as you use it. You don't have to worry about reordering because we're going to deliver it to you every month because we ran that calculation of having knowing how much you're going to use every month. We'll put a little buffer in there to cover any kind of variances. But for the most part, that's how we provide you with that supply chain management resource. Now you can focus more of your resources on growing your product and selling your product in the industry. You don't have to worry about ordering or anything like that. So that's one side of our business, the supply chain. The other side of the business, and you know, we're continuously looking for opportunities to support the growers out there, for the business growers. So the other side of that is to find good, high-quality products that are meant for, also good for small grows, but also good for large grows. And we found one, and I think a lot of people know this company that I'm going to be referring to. They've built a good reputation around themselves for their seeds and their strains, and they've come up with a super soil that they recently commercialized about 2 years ago. But it's the TGA folks, the TGA, the Green Avengers, they've created a super soil. And we partnered with them, and we're the exclusive distributor out of the state of Washington. So we'll be supplying all the hydro shops, and we'll be supplying all the producer businesses, so the Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 guys. Anyone with a business license will be supported. Now, the importance of this is, you know, we were really excited about this because we really feel that this is a large-scale growing operations solution. Because now, in previous times, you have all your nutrients and your additives, and you mix them together. In your first 2 weeks, you would do this, and then the next 3 weeks, you do this, and the last 8 weeks, you do this, and then there's all these other things. That's a lot of processes. That's a lot of batches to mix. That's a lot of maintenance on when you're talking 21,000 square feet of growing envelope. That's a lot of maintenance to do. This super soil has an all-encompassing. It's an all-encompassing soil that has, the ingredients, for example, are some bad guano, oyster shells, fish bone meal, but there's a lot more that goes into it. But what's important about it is all these things that go into it are nutrient-rich, organic items. And so they all have varying half-lives of decay, so which means they decay at certain rates, right? They all decay at different rates. So everything will slowly decay, and your plant will have everything it needs throughout that whole grow. So you basically put the super soil in, you put some base soil in there as well, and then when you transfer your pot, you put some more super soil in there and more base soil, but you're just watering your plant. So from a large-scale grow, this is one process. You're not mixing all the time. You're not doing everything because the soil comes pre-mixed. So it's a large-scale grow operations solution for the industry, and we're very excited about it. So again, I have one presentation on it, but that's essentially what we do in a nutshell. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to stop on by. We can supply you with everything you have, or with everything you currently use. We have access to 4,500 to 5,000 products, just like through all the distributors out there. But since we're not a grow store, we don't store them. The way we pass on the buck to you guys, the growers, is you tell us what you use, and that's what we'll store. And if you want advice on alternative solutions, we have an industry expert that can help with substituting products in there as well. So again, come on, stop by and talk to us, guys. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alan, everybody, from Green Thumb, thank you so much, man. I gotta tell you, these are really cool guys over there. If you got a minute, you gotta check out some of their marketing material. I really love when people are putting their efforts into their marketing material. In the evolution of our marketing in the green industry, you really have to consider your marketing. You really have to consider your outreach to the community, and the image and the professionalism. And I just want to give them a little throw out. They've really done something great. They do have a really nice little card here. And I always see these cards at events, they get stuffed into bags and they get thrown away. Well, they came up with an idea, and it's real simple. You fold in the edges, it's already perforated and ready to go, and bam, you've got a rolling trough to put your material in when you want to roll something up. So I thought that was a cool little idea. We're going to be rocking out, I think, coming up next here is, I think I know who it is, but I just want to double check. It is Nana's Secret, ladies and gentlemen. So Nana's coming up here in about 30 seconds, but guess what? I'm pulling her from the main stage because we got something extra planned for you. So we'll be making announcements. She will be at the Magical Butter demonstration stage, and Nana and I are going to come over and talk to you about Nana's Secret, everybody. So please join us at the Magical Butter booth over there for Nana's Secret demonstration. So come on over, join us. We're going to do a little bit of sampling. We're going to talk about the secret behind the love that is Nana. And these are part of the philanthropy aspects and the reach out to the community. This is about bridging gaps between today and tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Magical Butter Studios for the MJBA Vendor event. quieter in there. I could. Oh, we're talking on the back? Well, I was going to do interviews with people. I'm trying to do it in between speakers. You do in the back? The pod is set up. There's a table and everything in there, but it's just not. The audio will be perfect in there. And then once it's completely soundproof and everything else, it's that fucking place just sucks. We just we try to
Looks like the camera was left unattended for a while. We'll go ahead and get to another clip from the MJBA Vendor Fair. This is Russ Belville on day one.
There we go. I've got one last announcement, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of brought a nationwide celebrity with us today. We are on new missions at Magical Butter, and we're calling them ambassador missions. We have 12 of them planned this year, and one of the reach outs, ladies and gentlemen, Russ Belville, Radical Russ from 420 Radio.
Hello, everyone.
And it's such a pleasure. I was on your show the other day, came out, hung out in your studio, gave me a tour of Oregon. It was a blast. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us
over there. We got to go to the world famous Cannabis Cafe.
That's right, Cannabis Cafe in Portland, Oregon, celebrating its 5th anniversary this year.
That's awesome, and we gave them the last magical butter machine in America that day, which was such a hoot. Ladies and gentlemen, Russ is going to be coming around. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to actually turn it over. Russ, tell everybody here at Magical Butter Studios what you do. I'm going to turn the mic over to you because I know you know how to use it.
All right.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Jeremy Cooper with Magical Butter, everybody. Give them a big round of applause for putting this on because this is so important, what's going on right now. This is the MJBA, the Marijuana Business Association. Get involved with it because we are at the forefront of the green rush in America, here in the Pacific Northwest and in Colorado. I get to travel all over the country and cover these various events, and this is one of the first vendor-to-vendor, business-to-business type of events that I've been at. And again, like I said, this is so important because we are setting the tone for what the legalized marijuana industry is going to be. All eyes are on Washington and Colorado right now. There's a whole bunch of people in the DEA and in law enforcement and in drug rehab, people that own prison stocks that want to see this fail. They want to see this be a spectacular failure so they can point to other states and say, oh, look what happened in Washington and Colorado. You don't want that in your state. So it's incumbent upon the entrepreneurs and the businesses to set the highest possible standard, if you'll pardon the pun, for their business operations, to be above reproach, to have the best in ethics and integrity. We don't have any room in the public sphere to mess up. They're waiting for us to mess up, and they're going to take advantage of every opportunity they can to try to portray the legalization of marijuana and the attendant business that comes with it as something dangerous. Currently, the leading group that is trying to fight marijuana legalization is called Project SAM. And one of their biggest talking points, you'll see Patrick Kennedy get on TV all the time talking about this, one of their biggest talking points is that the new marijuana industry will be the new big tobacco. Just like big tobacco, it'll come in, it'll lie about the product, it'll market to kids, try to entice people to become addicts. That's the way they want to portray the marijuana industry, and I think it's important for us to show that that is not the way this industry is going to develop. That we're interested in marketing to adults, not children. We're interested in responsible, safe adult use, not abuse. We're interested in the medical aspects of cannabis, raw cannabis, juicing, so many other aspects of cannabis that have nothing to do with getting high. And even the aspects that do have something to do with getting high, well, those things are happening in America already. We're just asking to take the profit away from cartels and criminals and put it in the hands of law-abiding, tax-paying, job-creating businesses like yours. So thank you, vendors, for being a part of this, entrepreneurs for being a part of this, for setting the highest standards, the top standards in the industry, also write for High Times Magazine, Alternate, Huffington Post. If you'd like to see some of the interviews and videos that I'll be doing this weekend, you can find them at 420radio.org. Come see me. I'll give you a card, give you the address. You can also find my social media accounts at Radical Russ, and I'll have photos and tweets and all sorts of stuff from this weekend. Again, thanks to Jeremy Cooper and Magical Butter and MJBA for having me out here. I'm Radical Russ from 420 Radio. See you online. Take care of each other, Tokers.
Thank you, Russ. Tremendous. Okay, we have a very special presentation today, very special in my mind. One thumb. Excuse me, everyone. I'd love to introduce to you the MJBA's first corporate sponsor and one of our favorite people in the cannabis industry here in Seattle, Cecilia Siverton and Nana Secret Soda. Okay, you have to be one.
Jobs. I've been a mother, I've been a wife, as my friend Bev here knows, I've worked in the prosecutor's office, but all my life I've worked really hard to be like everyone in this room. I didn't want to be a person with epilepsy, but now I can be that person, and I can go all across the country and tell everybody that I have epilepsy and how cannabis makes that all right. Makes me just like everybody else. And that's what Nana's Secret is all about. That's how making Nana's Secret has made me just like everybody else. And that's why I want you and everybody else to have Nana's Secret. And we're going to change everybody else's mind, one soda at a time. And I really can't talk anymore because I'm not feeling too well today.
Thank you, Nana. My name is Michael Gudson. There she is, the queen of the MJ universe right there. I'm Michael Gudson, as I said. I'm a marketing guy. Been working with Dave and Morgan I did the poster for him, by the way. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Nana. And what we're doing with her is that we are taking an approach, while Nana's Secret is a decidedly medical product and it's healing for what she's developing for. But right now,
oh yeah, well, we all know what that sound means. That it's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone, here in Oregon. I've got some cabbage and I've got some Happy Daddy tools and a torch.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man?
Go ahead, and if you're not,
have you ever met that funny reefer man?
When we come back, we'll have more footage from the Marijuana Business Fair.
He would say South Carolina, and you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Toker Talk Radio, Russ Belville Show on 420
I'm Radical Russ
Radio.
Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier to remember NCC420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com, and follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up!
Hey, Miss Jill, TGA Genetics Weed Nerd. Watch replay at 420radio.org.
Hey Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out lushledlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting.
Weed Porn Daily, starring Oscar Diaz from Florida, Tuesdays at 11 a.m.
And what recently happened or didn't happen in the state legislature in this last session. As a lawyer, I have to have my disclaimer at the beginning letting you know that all of this is illegal under federal law. Next. So I want to quickly talk about medical. So we know that the Washington State Legislature failed to pass a bill on medical marijuana this last legislative session. They had a deadline of Thursday at midnight, and it came and went with no activity, which was a bit of a shock because there were two bills that generally the entire legislature was in agreement that medical marijuana needed to change and that they were going to incorporate that industry into the regulated 502 market. The details, however, were buried in the House and the Senate. Both of those bills are now tabled at this time. Our next regular session where we could see some activity is in January 2015. That's going to be a 105-day session. This last one was just 60, so a little bit more time. But until then, we could see the governor call an extraordinary session at any time in the next year. And if he did, we may see some activity on medical. So this isn't the last of it. We will likely see it in January 2015 and maybe even before then. I want to quickly talk about what does this mean in light of the failure to pass a revised medical marijuana bill in Olympia. I want to first say that this failure to pass a bill is in no means an endorsement of our current medical marijuana laws. We know that both the House and Senate were in agreement that collective gardens were to end. One had the date at May 2015, one had the date at September 2015. But regardless, there's agreement in Olympia, even though the bill failed to pass, that our medical marijuana laws need to change. So I think we need to look at the next 12 months in that context. We've already seen a number of city and counties pass moratoriums on medical collective gardens. Some of them are incorporated into their moratorium on 502, and then a number of them are separate and apart from their 502 zoning. Like, for example, King County now has a moratorium on medical collective gardens. They are zoning Initiative 502. So I think that in the next 12 months, if the state legislature continues to fail to address this issue, we'll likely see cities and counties filling that void. And I guarantee in a year from now, very few localities will allow for the zoning of collective gardens. In the next 12 months, also, I think you should prepare yourself to see continued enforcement action by the Department of Revenue, as well as local code enforcement, and I mean zoning code enforcement. And these are challenges that every small business is facing. We all have to pay our taxes. We all have to comply with local zoning codes. But the spotlight on this industry, medical I'm talking about, not recreational, is going to intensify over the next 12 months. So I think you'll see growing activity there. And then my greatest concern by the legislature's failure to pass a law this last session. We already know our U.S. Attorney in Western Washington, Jenny Durkin, she's come out and made a statement that she believes Washington's medical marijuana laws are untenable. We know the federal government has a problem with our unregulated medical market. My fear is that in the next 12 months, if the state continues to ignore this issue, we're going to see the feds come in and begin to take action. And of course, that's something nobody wants to do because they create a lot more problems than they're going to resolve. We did have one marijuana bill pass this legislative session. It was House Bill 2304, and it expressly allows for concentrates. And many of you probably know that the Liquor Control Board did a workaround in order to allow for concentrates. They created a very, vague interpretation of infused products, and they said they would allow concentrates by making them infused, and they'd have to be infused with some very minute percentage of like an inert oil or something. And that's now gone away. It's not, practical effect of that is not going to be too big for many of you who are producing and processing. You could work around that through the infused product workaround, and now we'll probably just see processors aren't going to have to squeeze that little dropper of oil into the concentrate anymore. But the other limitations are the same. Per consumer transaction limit for concentrates are going to be 7 grams, which is what we already saw for what they referred to as infused products for inhalation. And I think it's relevant to know the definition of what is a concentrate and what is an infused product. For some of those that you are going to be selling something that's a high concentration, but maybe you wouldn't think of it in the marketplace as a concentrate, you're going to have to kind of go outside of that and carefully read the definition of the infused product and concentrate. There's a threshold of a 60% THC concentration in that, so potentially you could be seeing products that you would maybe think were infused, and then those might fall into the concentrate category. And that's going to be important because that'll change how you package that and how much of it you can sell. Okay. I want to just quickly go over these very basic rules of 502 because I can't tell you how many times I have clients come in and ask me these questions. So who must qualify under 502? Owners, their spouses, financiers and their spouses, although I would argue spouses and financiers do not have to qualify under the rules, but Liquor Control Board is telling me that they interpret those rules differently. And the financiers, anybody who gives you money. Your mom gave you $10,000 that's going towards your 502, she's now a financier. So it's gifts, loans, or investors. And then anybody who has a right to profits. So a lot of those folks who are setting up kind of creative employment contracts or contractor agreements, you could potentially be creating a person who must qualify. So there's some carve-outs for people who would probably maybe fall under that definition. They've carved out banking institutions. Good luck finding one of those to get involved in your organization right now. And then a landlord, and so a lot of people are using the landlord exemption in order to get maybe money from an out-of-state relative who wants to, assist but isn't a Washington resident. And technically what they could do is they could buy your property. maybe some of you have already figured this out, but mom really wants to help, or a brother really wants to help, or even an investor, a wealthy friend, he can come in and purchase the property for you and then rent it to you at a fair market value, and he wouldn't have to qualify as a Washington resident. Okay, so the qualifiers very generally: 3 months of Washington residency, you can only have minimal criminal history, you have to be 21 years of age, current on all your tax obligations, either as an individual or a company in which you are an owner, and you're limited to having an interest in either 3 producer processor licenses or 3 retailer licenses. I want to go back to bullet number 4. That's why a big reason why we're seeing so much activity by the Department of Revenue right now. If they can assess as many people as possible in the next few months, and those people get a tax assessment, then they have to pay that before they can qualify for 502. So that's one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of activity there. This is just quickly criminal history. This is the general, the matrix points assignments for criminal history. Yeah, and there's mitigating circumstances. So if you have a marijuana related charge and it's within that 3-year look back period, or 10 years for a felony, you may get it mitigated. Oh, and if anybody is an owner and then you get a criminal violation, you get a DUI or whatever, you have to report that to the Liquor Control Board within 15 days. Was that? No, 14 days. You have 2 weeks. These little reporting issues might just kind of be, who cares? They're very important on a go-forward basis. You need to make sure you're fully aware of what you need to report to the Liquor Control Board and what your time period is, because failure to do so can result in some pretty severe penalties. Quickly, I just want to go over the application process because I think it's a little bit confusing to people right now. So the step 1 happened back in November. It's long gone. And right now we're in between step 2 and step 4. So we know that I think they've issued 3 producer licenses in the last couple weeks. There's one more bullet there at the bottom, Kurt. But there are hundreds and hundreds of applicants still waiting for a phone interview. So if that's where you're at, there's more, you're in good company. You're the majority of applicants right now. And then after you have your phone interview, which is very short, for those of you who haven't had it yet, it's about an hour and a half. It's very simple, straightforward. You need to know, though, at that time, pretty much your location, your investors, and you have a budget worked out. And then you'll get, 30 days to fill out your online forms. You submit those documents, and then this is kind of the unknown. How long does it take the Liquor Control Board to process those documents? I'm assuming 2 months, maybe, or maybe shorter. It's a pretty straightforward single-member LLC, small business. But anybody who's got a little bit more to them, I expect maybe 2 months for that process. Then you should get a conditional approval. That time, I recommend with clients, that's when you really put the money into your facility. Build out your facility, and then you'll have your final inspection. So we know that 3 people right now have had that final inspection and been issued a license. Hundreds of people are still in step 2. So right now, retail applicants should have received an email that had a pre-screening application form. You should be filling it out now or in the next week. If you have not received an email, you need to contact the Liquor Control Board as soon as possible. They expect to have retail water in April. We'll see, maybe late April. And they're using just a handful of factors to screen applications for the lottery. They're listed there. The biggest one is going to be the 1,000-foot distance requirement. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about security. It's a major part of your business. There are some vendors here. The biggest and most expensive component will be the video surveillance system. Traceability is also an important issue and a factor of cost to consider going forward. BioTrack's here, there's a number of other providers, but in general also the state is providing a system as well. To many of my very small clients, I recommend waiting and seeing what the state system looks like, seeing if it's something you deal with before you necessarily take on the expense of a third-party software provider. But as it's been explained to me, the state system should be available. I would think the free license people might already have access to it. I haven't seen it yet. It's going to be online system that you can, so you need a computer on base. It's going to supposedly have barcode coding, so you'll be tracking what you have to track. It's going to be almost a full-time job tracking, right? I mean, it's like, get up in the morning, got to put that in the traceability system. It's long, and it'll be interesting when we actually see it, see how it works, how time-consuming it's going to be. We do know you can go by batch and lot, so you're not having to necessarily track every single individual plant. You can move them into batch and lot so that you can move it more quickly, but it'll still be a significant amount of work. So quantity limits, like we've already talked about. This is just with regards to infused products. The single serving is 10 milligrams of THC or Delta 9, and that's not the concentrate definition there. It's just infused products. And then I have the single unit, so package. So the way I always thought about it is if I have a chocolate bar, my single serving is like the little pieces within the chocolate bar, and then my whole chocolate bar is my single unit. And these are the consumer transaction limits. If you're a retailer and you're going to obviously be hiring people, a violation of one of these is incredibly serious and puts your license at tremendous risk. So these numbers are going to control your everyday life. You'll probably have them right up next to the cash register. And you probably are aware of the canopy size limitation. So we have a 2 million square foot canopy. Yeah. Yeah, I have heard that. An investigator brought that up the other day. Oh, did they? Maybe it was the same one, because that's the only one I've talked to that's mentioned it. Yeah, so the question is, we've both heard that the Liquor Control Board potentially will be limiting the types of infused products and specifically not allowing like refrigerated products. And that would include butters, which is huge, right? And I can't remember if I talked to Becky Smith about this, who's in licensing department of Liquor Control Board, and asked for some more information. She was like, yeah, it's something we're looking at and we expect to get more information in the future. But that's definitely a big issue we need to look at. And I think they were thinking that they're incorporating another code. So it's outside of 31455, which is the Liquor Control Board administrative code. I think I don't know if it's Department of Ag or who, or somebody, food processing permit or something, but that's coming from another legal source. So it's a great question, and that's a good reminder for me to follow up on. Yeah, you can go. So there are also on-hand quantity limits. So you have your quantity limits for my packaging, I have my quantity limits for my transaction with the consumer, and then I have my quantity limits that I can have at my production, my processing, or my retail facility itself in terms of inventory and plants. You don't need to go over the details, you just need to know they're there, and you need to know what they are. They're a little bit arbitrary to begin with because it's based on a year's worth of harvest or a year's worth of inventory, and you're not going to know what those are in your first year because that's something you'll learn as you go. And it's important to know that they're out there. In other words, you shouldn't be like maxing out on from the very beginning. Next one. I think you're probably all aware of the 15-day window. Right now there's a rule amendment that will require you to upload that information that for clones that you acquire in the 15-day window into the traceability system. I think they give you like 24 hours or something. So look for that rule amendments. It's important. But you have 15 days to populate your garden. Most people will probably populate from a medical garden. And after that 15-day window, you can only buy your clones or seeds from another licensed producer. I'm bringing this up because I think it's going to be a growing issue of importance that maybe many people are unaware of. So the Department of Agriculture and the Liquor Control Board have said that with regards to pesticides and soil amendments, fertilizers, the label is the law. And unfortunately, in this industry, no one says appropriate use for cannabis on a label. So technically, according to the lawyers, you're not following the law because you're not complying with the label because it doesn't say you can use that product for cannabis. So the workaround with that is the Department of Agriculture through Wazoo is creating a list. I think they have over 200 products on there now. The website's there. If you are using anything, it has to be on that list. The list is pretty easy. It's a little bit clunky at first to find it if you've been on that website. But once you find it, it's easy to find if your product's there. Most commercially available products are there, but it's good due diligence to make sure. So advertising, and I love that picture of the baby because it like violates every single advertising provision, I think. So a couple of people have said to me today, I cannot advertise, and that's not the case. You just have to be very careful in how you advertise. You can have no statement or illustration that's false or misleading, okay, that promotes overconsumption. I have no idea how to interpret that. How am I advertising the use of cannabis without promoting overconsumption? I mean, I can guarantee you every single beer ad promotes overconsumption. So we'll see how they go on to interpret that. I would say pretty safely though that the baby is promoting overconsumption. Represents that the use of marijuana has curative or therapeutic effects. This is hugely problematic in my opinion. I'm really hoping that if we see the medical market move into the 502 regulated market, that this will be revised because it's a patient safety issue at that point in time. People need to know how to appropriately use that product and what it's appropriate for. And so I'm hopeful we'll see some changes. It's just something we're going to have to live with in the next couple years. Depicts a child or other person under the legal age and includes objects such as toys, characters, cartoons, or any other depiction designed to appeal to those under 21. Again, another very ambiguous rule. How do I know if something's designed to appeal to those under 21? I mean, everything appeals to them under 21, so that'll be tough one. We'll see how it's interpreted. And then there are some restrictions on giveaways and coupons. Yeah, and then this is more like where can I advertise? We know you can have no advertisement in any form or medium within 1,000 feet of one of the restricted uses, schools, playgrounds. I don't know what that means for print media. How are we going to interpret that? You know, if I have a stand for cannabis now at some bookstore and it's within 1,000 feet to a school, it's something we need to hear a little bit more about. But obviously this would apply to like signage, fixed signage. No advertisement in the bus or public transit shelter. No advertising on public property, and retailers are very limited on how they can display their name and information. Trademarks is a big issue that many of you should be thinking about now, especially as you're ramping up your branding, or if you have branding in the medical market that you want to transition into 502. Oh, we lost it. I need some talk back. Okay. So generally, in order to protect your brand, so that the most famous example, the McDonald's and McDowell's, right? Is everybody following what I'm talking about? You have to trademark that in your branding. In order to do it, you need 3 examples. So you do have to wait till you actually have a product. You just can't say, I have an idea of a brand and I want to try to trademark it now. You need to have it in an actual product and be using it. But it is a registration with you that you do at the state of Washington. Many people trademark on a federal level to protect that brand name across the country. Right now, it's very challenging to get a federal trademark for cannabis. Some attorneys are trying to creatively work around it, but it's still an issue. But I think for many of you, I wouldn't worry about that. Right now, you're dealing with the Washington market, and that's all you're dealing with. And if you're going to move to Oregon, then you get an Oregon trademark. I'm sure it's just a couple $100 for the filing. So definitely trademark your Washington brand at this point in time, and then worry about a federal trademark issue when we can actually interstate commerce, which isn't available. And I lost my entire slideshow. It looks like it's gone. Okay, well, my half an hour is almost up anyway, so I can take questions. It's free legal advice. How often do you get that? Yeah.
So, county moratorium issues a license. Do you wait a year while your county figures out the regulations?
Okay, that's a good question. So she's asking about local moratoriums and kind of the interplay between that and the state and liquor control board. So I always tell clients it's two different things you have to qualify for, but they're separate apart from each other. I have to be in compliance with local zoning to open my doors, and I have to be, have a 502 compliant location, and then it's 1,000 feet from restricted uses. Those are two separate things that are enforced and monitored by two different government bodies that don't really care about each other. So they're not working in tandem on this. Okay, well, let's finish answer your question. So, if you don't comply with local zoning, businesses open up all the time. And generally, I'll tell you, code enforcement is done because of limited government resources. It's done in terms of when they get a complaint. But the problem with 502 is that local government knows you're going to open from the very beginning. You're not going to be able to slip under and hope you can get a non-conforming use and get around it. They know from day one where you are, and they've got their code enforcement on top of you. And because of that, it's hugely important, unfortunately. So you will never open your doors. Liquor Control Board has said, we will give you a license even though you don't comply with local zoning. But the local government's never going to let you open your doors. They'll send you a cease and desist letter and take code enforcement action on you from day one. And that's the challenge. So if you're in an area that has a local moratorium, you're kind of in a wait-and-see position. Even if you have a license, you need to wait. And my advice to people is get involved with local government. 90% of those moratoriums, it's not because they have a problem with marijuana, it's because it was thrown at them, and the process in that government is slow. And they were kind of shoved this in their face at a very busy time when they were trying to determine their budgets for the year. And a lot of them just said, whoa, 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 put the brakes on, we'll do a moratorium and we'll revisit this in 6 months. Well, they made that decision without realizing visiting them in 6 months is efficiently, throwing this out the door and making it impossible for applicants. And so that disconnect happened. But I think a lot of them right now are in the process, a lot of those moratoriums are in the process of being resolved. So get as active as you can in that local government. They don't have a grandfather in because they didn't have I'm sure they didn't have a local business license or anything that gave them a right to that business. So she's asking generally, if somebody enforces a local moratorium, and some people applied for their 502 license, and then the moratorium came into effect, and then some people applied after, how is that treated? And generally across the board, because they didn't get a local license, local business license before that, they weren't up and running, they don't have a right to that non-conforming use. They need to have it registered and established, doing business in the state. So I'm not worried about unfair treatment there. I mean, if this came in and we'd already had 502 up and running for some period of time, and then they came in and changed zoning, generally those other uses would be what's called non-conforming. Most cities and counties have a non-conforming use clause that allows those people to continue for some period of time, even though they don't conform with the current zoning laws. But you have to have a vested right and interest in that business, in that license before, and that we didn't have a window to create that. Well, I don't have much time, so I don't want to go over. Well, samples are a big issue. And I think the most important thing with sampling is always remember that on-site consumption of marijuana is against the law. So if you're testing your own product at your facility, you could lose your license. It seems weird. Even though it's legal for you to sample your own product, you can't do it at your grow or processing facility. So you've got to take it home or take it someplace else, test it. It's not like the wineries, where they do a little and then they test it. Unfortunately, we have to move off the premises. No, but you do have to put it in the traceability system. So you're limited in the amount that you can sample. Sampling is allowed for three different scenarios. You're limited in the amount, and if you do use anything for a sample, it goes in the traceability system. I'm not going to go over this because we already have an extractor. The biggest thing with scales is make sure you get your weights and measuring devices license. Really easy. Go to business licensing service, same place where you apply for your marijuana license. It's called the weights. It's like other licenses, weights and measures devices. Fill it out. Pay your small little puny fee at it. It's like $20. Get your license registered. Get your scale registered and licensed. And the disclosures for packaging and labeling are extensive. One thing I want to mention about transportation is I have a lot of clients right now who are looking at doing, either selling clones or selling large amounts of product, and the current rules are unworkable. You have to have a cage or a bulletproof plastic contraption, bolted to your car, bolted to the bottom, not the bottom, but I don't know, like the body of your vehicle. And so I was asking my control board, I was like, is there a product on the market that you had in mind that people can buy? What are you talking about? Like, do I need to go get a dog cage? How can I advise my clients on this? And they said generally their thought was they didn't want the situation of somebody coming up and breaking open the glass, hitting the door open button, popping up the trunk, grabbing it and going. I said, well, if that's your concern, there's a ton of products on the market. You can get, mesh screens for the windows so you can't get in them, and then you can get bolts, on delivery vans that are separate and part of a locking mechanism other than the automatic indoor lock. And I think that was an eye-opener. I actually spoke to Mike Steenhouse, which is a great guy at the Liquor Control Board, and he said that he acknowledges that this rule needs to be revised, and they're working on it right now. So I'm hopeful that in the next year we'll see some changes to this, and they'll expressly allow for people who are selling clones. You can't shove clones in a dog cage. I mean, these are going to make a big pallet, and he's hopeful that they'll get a van or a truck and like a trailer to a truck, which is the roll down, which needs to be separately locked. He thinks that'll be appropriate. Yeah, or a U-Haul, exactly. Yeah. Waste disposal is like, it's like enriched uranium, right? How many more rolls can we get? I'll throw some in the trash. Wastewater, I think, is a big issue for your producers, especially if you're out in rural areas. I would contact the Department of Ecology and talk to them, make sure you're complying with wastewater. I know that every other small farmer out there rolls their eyes and doesn't deal with it, but we are not every other small farmer, and we are under a microscope. So start that conversation. And dangerous waste is an issue. So if you're treating something with a solvent, you need to comply with dangerous waste disposal rules. But if you're not, you still have pretty significant rules that many of you are probably familiar with, where you have to render the waste unusable. And you have to give before I throw away that like handful of trim, don't throw that in the garbage. You gotta set it aside, you gotta put it in the traceability system, you gotta give it 72 hours, then you gotta put it in something, you gotta mix it with something with other non-marijuana garbage. You either use compostable garbage or non-compostable. That is rendering it unusable, so the final product is less than 50% marijuana trim or whatever. Now I can put it in the garbage. So this is important. You have to follow all those rules.
New Approach Oregon is a coalition of Oregon citizens who believe that treating marijuana use as a crime has failed, costing taxpayers millions in law enforcement resources. We believe it's time for a new approach on marijuana, and that Oregonians deserve a chance to decide in the 2014 general election. Our approach will regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana for adults in Oregon. By implementing a strict system to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana, we can move Oregon forward and create new revenue for critical services. Under our approach for 2014, 40% of funds would support K-12 education, 20% would support mental health and treatment services, and 15% would be dedicated to law enforcement. Public opinion, coupled with victories in Washington and Colorado, confirms marijuana legalization is inevitable. Visit our website at newapproachoregon.com or our page on Facebook at New Approach Oregon. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know this is James.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email firedupLawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
All right, well, through another show. Thanks for joining us here on 420 Radio, Russ Belville Show and Toker Talk Radio. We'll have another live show with Russ on the road tomorrow, so make sure you tune back in. No Red Eyes Reggae Flashback live tonight. Gonna have a replay. I gotta spend some time with a good friend. So, for Radical Russ and everybody here at 420radio.org, I'm Brian the Red, and until next time, take care of each other, Toker.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Attention, attention.
Cannabis Week starts Monday, March 17th on the Russ Belville Show and 420radio.org. Join me, Gordon Green, as I bring you all the happenings from the largest cannabis expo in the world, Spanibus 2014 in Barcelona, Spain. Daily reports, all access interviews from Jorge Cervantes, Annie Danko, European personalities like Cannabis Cure UK and the Dope Fiend, and many more. All here with me, Gordon Green, starting Monday, March 17th on 420radio.org and the Russ Belville Show.
Day.